Hey there, and welcome back to By His Grace Marriage Ministry Podcast. My name is Amanda. Shabbat Shalom. To those of you who keep the Sabbath, I pray that you're having a blessed Shabbat and a restful Sabbath full of Shalom, peace. All right, so I am back with my second word for today. I have a topic that I would like to share that is very close to my heart and ultimately has been the entire theme of the podcast ministry, which is marriage and family. But this is going to be titled Supernatural Marriage and Supernatural Childbirth. And supernatural isn't really a term that I have used really, I don't think at all throughout my episodes. You've probably heard me say set apart or godly or something like that. And there's a reason why I'm choosing to say supernatural, because the foundation of marriage and having children should be faith. And of course, whatever is Yahuwah's will for each individual or for that husband and wife and for their family. So I want to just talk more about this topic. Now, the marriage part will probably sound repetitive to those of you that have been following the podcast from the beginning, just because, again, that's been the main theme of this podcast is marriage. So probably a lot of what I'll say in part 1 and part 2, you've probably heard before. Concerning childbirth, I haven't really touched in detail on that topic. I have talked about having babies and things like that, and how, we should raise up our children in the way of Yah, in the way of the word. But I haven't gone into too much detail on childbirth per se. I did do an episode called Be Fruitful and Multiply, where I did touch briefly on home birth, the benefits of home birth, and just how I feel personally and have been convicted that that is the way to go. And that's what this topic and episode is going to be about, is just having faith with these two things, allowing Yahuwah to be sovereign, to be in control of these two areas. And I just feel very strongly and know, based off of scripture, that this is the way that Yahuwah always intended for, for how marriage should be ordained and just maintained, and with how we should be having our babies. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today. There's going to be 2 parts. Part 1, I'm going to share, I have a stack of books that I want to refer to you all. I love books, and I love physical copies of books. I have a bookshelf full of books that have either been gifted to me or I have bought myself throughout time that have been a blessing for me in different areas of my life. And then, so I want to share those. And some of them you've probably heard me share from some of these books. I have mentioned them. Some of them I haven't. And then the second part of this episode, I will probably go more into detail about the convictions that Yahuwah gave me concerning marriage and family, or marriage and childbirth. Just go into more of that. Also, I wanted to say this. For any men that I have listening and following this podcast, these episodes that I'm doing, or this episode, part 1 and part 2, is for you as well. This isn't just for women. This isn't just for wives and mothers. This is for you brothers, husbands, and fathers as well. Why? Well, because number 1, you're a huge part of your marriage. You're the second half of your marriage, right? It's you and your wife. And second, because even though your wife is the one giving birth to your baby or your babies, right? Because you could have more than one. You could have twins, you can have triplets, whatever Yahuwah wills. You're still very much a part of that, and I'll explain more in detail in part 2. So this word is for men and women. All right, praise Yah. All right, so I also just want to throw in real quick, I don't know what's going on, if it's allergies or I may be coming down with a cold. I hope not, but my throat is just acting really just weird today, and please forgive me if I have to clear my throat a few times as I talk. I really try not to do that, as I feel that it's unprofessional and probably really annoying to those listening. But I can't help it. And again, it's probably allergies. I live in Colorado. It's really dry out here as well. It doesn't help. So my apologies in advance. Please forgive me. All right, so I want to go ahead and start off by sharing with you the books that have either been gifted to me or I have purchased over the course of time that have been an absolute blessing. Again, some of them I have actually read from in some of my episodes throughout the podcast. Some of them I have not, but I'm sharing these books because I feel that they are a blessing and are really in alignment with the scriptures. Now, all of these books that I'm going to share with you, I don't fully agree with every single thing that are in these books, okay? But there is a lot in each book that I've been able to take from. What's that saying? I think it's is it chew the meat, spit out the bones, or something like that? I don't know. I probably said that wrong, but you get what I'm saying. I always pray before I read books, and just ask the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, to lead me and guide me and help me, just to speak to me through what I'm reading, if there's anything that I need to be aware of or just have knowledge on. So anyways, the first book, of course, first and foremost, that I want to recommend is the Bible. always turn to the Bible, always read your scriptures. So that's number one. All right, the second book that I want to refer is called Home Birth on Your Own Terms, a how-to guide for birthing unassisted, and this is by Heather Baker. I will get more into detail about types of births and things like that in the second part of this episode. And I know that there's probably going to be quite a bit of you that are not going to agree at all with me, with what I've been personally convicted on and what I believe in, and that's okay. The idea is that we still love one another and respect one another, no matter if our beliefs differ or if we've been convicted on different things concerning these topics. So that is the first book, or second book if you count the Bible. That is the second book that I want to refer. Home Birth on Your Own Terms, a how-to guide for birthing unassisted by Heather Baker. I actually don't have this book yet. It's arriving on Monday. It was gifted to me by a sister, praise Yah, and I'm excited to read it. But from what's been explained to me, it is a really good book if you plan on birthing at home on your own, just you and your husband. So I'm excited to read that. I cannot wait for that. I just know that it will bless tremendously. So even though I haven't read it yet, that is a book that I do want to refer because I've heard amazing things about it. So, all right. So third book, and y'all have, if you've been following my podcast since the beginning, this is a book that I read a lot from that helped give me a lot of knowledge that I was able to then share on the podcast. Not only was I able to apply a lot of this to my own marriage, but just to help others as well, even counsel others. So this book is Marriage God's Way by Scott LaPierre. It's a biblical recipe for healthy, joyful, Messiah-centered relationships. I cannot say enough about this book. It also comes with a study guide, which I have done with a few sisters, and it has just blessed us tremendously. But this book has a lot, and I want to say majority of my first and second seasons had to do with this book. So I definitely encourage you all, whether you're single or you're already married, please read this book. It has just blessed me and other sisters tremendously. All right, so the next book that I want to refer, so for those of you that didn't listen to some of my episodes in this season, I talked a lot about my convictions on just being natural, coming out of pharmaceuticals, coming out of all this man-made stuff. I talked about how our medicine cabinet is basically herbal supplements, essential oils, just anything that's natural, that Yahuwah basically has provided for us by his hand, yielded from the earth, okay? So medicines, herbs, all that we know comes from the earth, comes from plants and flowers. Our clothing, linen clothing, I am a linenite. I wear all linen as much as I can. Sometimes I have to wear cotton, but linen is amazing. It is made of flax. We know that flax comes from the ground. Again, this is something that Yahuwah has given to us. It is way more healthier for you versus the man-made synthetics like polyester and nylon and all that garbage that is essentially not good for us. Eating whole foods, eating fruits and vegetables, eating things that haven't been tampered with, just all those things. I think I talked a lot about that in my episode called Set Apart, I believe. So anyways, I am someone that uses essential oils daily. I put it in a lot of things, cleaners, HVA products. I use it when we're sick, and just things like that. So for example, instead of using over-the-counter aspirin that has so many things in it that is actually not good for us, I would use peppermint essential oil, tummy aches, peppermint essential oil, just things like that. So I came across a book, and this has been such a blessing, and it's called Gentle Babies, and it is essential oils and natural remedies for pregnancy, childbirth, infant, and young children. Okay. And listen, I can't say this enough, y'all. Please get away from the pharmaceuticals. Please, please, please get away from the pharmaceuticals and use the stuff that Yahuwah gave us, that he created for us. Okay. Like I can't say that enough. I love essential oils. I've been using them for about, I want to say 5-6 years, and they have just been such a blessing. I mean, they have essential oils for everything. And yes, you can use it while you're pregnant. There are certain ones, of course, that you can't use. And you can also implement them when you're in labor and when your baby or babies are born, and, anoint them and all of that. I mean, it's incredible. I highly recommend this book. Super helpful. It has a lot of recipes in there, a lot of do's and don'ts, and just what you can use certain oils for both mama and baby. So really, really amazing. All right, the next book that I want to recommend is called, and I'm sorry, I didn't say the author. I'm sorry. The author of Gentle Babies is Deborah Rayburn. Raybern. Okay. I may just, I might, because it'll be a lot to type. I might just put the titles and authors of these books and where you can purchase them in the description. If I don't, or I forget, just shoot me an email and I'd be happy to provide that information for you. All right. The next book is called Supernatural Childbirth, Experiencing the Promises of Elohim Concerning Conception and Delivery, and the author is Jackie. I don't want to mispronounce her last name. I don't know if it's Ms. or Mize. It's Mize. This book is amazing. It has prayers in it. It's scripturally based. It has testimonies for those of you who are married and maybe you've been trying to conceive and you haven't been able to conceive yet, and I'll talk about this a little more in part 2, but I just want to throw some words of encouragement out there for those of you that have been on a journey of trying to conceive and you haven't. Just trust Yahuwah with that. That is in his hands. It's all in his perfect timing, and whatever is his will for your family. For those that have suffered, miscarriages, things like that, I know how extreme, I haven't personally been through it, but I know how hard and devastating that must be. And a lot of the books that I am referring actually touch, it speaks about that topic as well. So if you are someone that has experienced that or is currently experiencing that, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to pray for you. But just know that my heart is with you and just continue to pray and trust in Yahuwah, okay? But again, I'll talk more about that in part 2. All right, the next book that I want to refer is called Expectant, Cultivating a Vision for a Messiah-Centered Pregnancy. It says Christ, but I'm going to change the words. And this is by author Heather Cofer, Cofer. This is another great book that I have read that I was able to really take a lot from in preparation for when that time comes. Really, really beautifully written. And again, all these books are scripturally based. If I felt they were not, or that would mislead someone, I would not recommend these books. And again, not everything in each of these books do I fully agree with, because a lot of them are written from a Christianity perspective as well. So Again, chew the meat, spit out the bones. I hope that's the right term or saying. But they're all wonderful books. The next one, and y'all have heard me talk about this book, is called Blending Families. And of course, I purchased this because, well, we're a blended family. I had a child before meeting my spouse, and my husband had children before us meeting. So we're a blended family. And it says 18 successful step families share their secrets to growing a healthy marriage and family. This was written by Jimmy Evans and Frank Martin. And I will tell you that majority of these books I've mentioned, you can find on Amazon. I think one of them, the essential oil book, I think I bought that through Etsy. Was it Etsy? Or was it the other one? I think it was Etsy. All right. The next one, I've also mentioned this book in previous episodes. It's called The Christian Homemaker's Handbook. This is written by Pat Ennis and Dorothy Kelly Patterson. This is a really big book. And I will tell you, this was the most expensive book that I've purchased. But it does have a lot in it. And I actually bought this on christianbooks.com. This book actually costs, I think, $30, $30 or $40, I can't remember. But you know what? It was worth every dollar because it has everything in here. It talks about the purpose of marriage, marriage, God's way or Yahuwah's way. It talks about, giving birth. It even touches the topic on birth control, which I also talked about in the episode Be Fruitful, Multiply. I personally don't believe in it, but I do believe that Yahuwah provided a natural form of birth control, and I'll talk more about that in part 2. But it just talks about even like homeschooling and just relocating, nesting, all those things. I mean, it just talks about everything that has to do with marriage and family, and this is an incredible book. I will always refer this, whether you are not yet married or you already are. This is an incredible book. I highly, highly recommend it. I've been able to take so much away from this book. It has just been amazing. So highly, highly recommend it. Again, you can buy this on christianbooks.com. It might be on Amazon, but it could be more on Amazon. I don't know why Amazon does that. I've been with them like 10 years and I've noticed sometimes, I don't know, their prices are weird. But anyways, the next book that I want to recommend has to do with essential oils. It's not really has to do with marriage or family, but essential oils should be implemented in your family. So this book was actually gifted to me, and it's called The Healing Power of Essential Oils, written by Eric Zielinski. They're such an incredible family. It's him and his wife, and I think they have 4 or 5 children. I love this book. This is where I get a lot of my recipes from. It's just really incredible, you guys. I can't even begin to tell you how essential oils have not only changed my life, but my family's, and that everybody should be using them. Everybody should be using them, but there's like everything is in here. I mean, there's essential oils for like everything. So highly recommended. You can buy this book off of their website. I cannot remember. Let me see if I can. I can't remember their website. They are Christian as well. I mean, there's just so much in here, but I can't remember the website. If I come across it, I will add it in the description of this episode. But let me see, because I get emails from them daily. Maybe it'll be on there, because I'm not seeing it in the book. Or maybe you can just type in Eric Zielinski, but yeah, I'm not finding it. Okay. I will look into it more, and as soon as I find it, I will add it in the description, because I can go back and edit it anytime. So, sorry about that. Maybe just type in his name, Eric Zielinski, and just put like essential oils or something. It should pop right up. So, all right. So I have 2 more books that I want to share. And this one it's just called Handbook for Christian Natural Childbirth. And this is, excuse me, this is written by Marianne Manley. She's a registered nurse, but she's also a midwife. So this book I actually just got recently. I haven't read all the way through it yet, but from what I've skimmed through, I like a lot of what she talks about. I agree with some of it. There's some things I don't agree with, like she doesn't endorse or support like unassisted home birth. Of course she doesn't, because she's a midwife. But there's a lot of helpful things in here, like, if your husband wants to catch the baby, it just goes into a lot of detail, a lot of, just like the first book that I recommended. Both those books, for those of you that want to do a home birth or even an unassisted home birth, is going to be super helpful for you and just really help you to prepare. So I recommend that. But again, the difference between that one and the first one is the first one talks about unassisted home birth. This one talks about home birth, but with like a midwife and stuff like that. So, all right. And the last book that I want to recommend, and this is also a book that I have read from within some of my episodes. And this is actually from a ministry. Her name is Vivian Rose, but her ministry is The Two Shall Be One. It's a marriage ministry. And this was the first book that she wrote, and it's called Supernatural Marriage, The Way In. This is a really good book, y'all. Her ministry was actually one of the first ministries I came across when it had to do with godly marriage or set-apart marriage, and taught me a lot. I really felt Yahweh was speaking to me a lot through a lot of her teachings and some of her books. She has more than one. And I didn't pull the other two off my shelf to recommend just because they're great books, but they all pretty much tie together. So the other one is about praying for your husband. And then the third one is allowing Yahuwah to deal with your husband and just, allowing him to have the change that Yahuwah needs to make in him, stuff like that. I've mentioned them before in my podcast, but again, I just didn't pull them for the sake of time. That and they all connect. They all fall under the same thing. So, all right. So those are the books that I highly, highly encourage and recommend for you all in regards to marriage and just having babies. And again, I pulled two that had to do with essential oils because essential oils are very, very beneficial for you and your family. And even though that's not really what the topic is, but it is important to have. And since I'm talking about childbirth, and in part 2, that is something that I'm going to recommend that you have as a must-have when you go into labor and delivery. So, all right, so that's it for part 1. I just wanted to share these books and recommend them. Again, I will go back and add the titles, authors, and where you can find these books. That way, in case you're not like having to hurry up and get a paper and pen and try to jot these down, or jot them down as I say it, you can just go back and look on your own time if they are books that you are interested in. They have been such a blessing to me. Again, some of them have been gifted to me. Some of them I've bought a long time. And again, they've just been such a blessing for me in those areas. So, all right, that is it for part 1. Again, I just wanted to recommend these books to you all. I'm going to do part 2 shortly after this, and I will just go into more detail about some of the things that Yahuwah has personally convicted me, and just go into a little more detail in regards to supernatural marriage and supernatural childbirth. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will talk with you in my next episode. Shalom.